Well, hey, good Monday evening to you. How is everyone doing? How was your weekend? Did you all have a good time? I sure did. I, of course, am your friendly neighborhood, the Dungeon Delver, also known as Bill Sylvie, also known as the guy who had an online convention this weekend. How are you all doing? It's good to see you. It's good to be seen by you. So let's talk about the guac, because I want to get right into that. But just a little bit before we do, I do want to mention, good, the Dungeon Minister's here, because we're going to talk about him in a minute. Yeah, I was going to dive into the overview of the A modules straight away tonight, because I was like, the guac will be in the rear view mirror, and we'll be moving on, and we've been talking about it nonstop. So, but no, I do want to just mention that there's enough to talk about from the con that I feel like talking about it and the A module will be counterproductive, too much stuff in a single show. So tomorrow night is, of course, live streamed first edition AD&D. Wednesday night, Kyle will be here. Thursday night, I don't have a guest, so we'll talk about it then. So a little tomorrow night, and then some on Thursday night, and probably some on Friday night before Gamma World, if we end up doing Gamma World. But anyway, that said, let's go ahead and get into it. In the overall, from my perspective, on my side of the screen, I think the con was a success for what it was. If I had said, hey, let's have an IRL con, and I had that number of attendees and game signups and such, I would have felt like it just was awful. But for my first time out of the gate running a virtual convention with the audience size I got here on YouTube and on Facebook, I feel like it did pretty good. And so I want to talk about the highlights and the lowlights, and just kind of get into that. So highlights, both of our panels, because we actually had people do panels, were jam-packed. Well, they each had at least 10 attendees, as far as I could tell, which is pretty good, I think. Thank you, Eloise. I appreciate that. Other than myself and a few that were like before the con were canceled, I don't think anybody didn't run the games that they said they were going to. I think every game at least had a couple of participants. And I'll get back to my own games later. We had merch, and merch is going to be under lowlights. Not the merch we had, not the efforts put forth by the Dungeon Minister. No, sir. Because that was awesome. A lot of people did get their merch. I'm still waiting on my pint glass from Media Spring or Teespring or whatever it is. Now, Dungeon Minister will have to tell us if he's still going to have the merch available on Teespring for 2022. I don't know if he's going to keep that up there or what. I don't know how much merch sold. But in the overall, people definitely seemed to dig the merch. As for myself, as for games that I ran, and I'll talk about the highlights first, because I want to mention some people in a positive way in terms of highlights. Played Dungeon Thursday afternoon / evening. That was a lot of fun. The TSR board game. That was myself and Bo Ganora and Ricky Maru played Dungeon. And Bo actually ended up winning that. We played Basic Dungeon, which is Wizards or Heroes. Is it Wizards or Heroes, or Wizards and Heroes and Elves? Or maybe it's just Heroes and Elves. But anyway, there's just a couple of character classes. Bo carried the day and carried 10,000 gold pieces of treasure out. So that was real good. I ran original D&D, and this is where I come to the first highlight. I ran original D&D, and it was so much fun. Let me tell you what. If you get the chance to invite the dungeon minister into a game you're running, whether you're up there in Toronto and you know which of the igloos he lives in, because you know he's in Canada and it's all just ice and snow up there. If you get the chance, game with Dungeon Minister. He played 2 characters because one of them got turned to stone by a cockatrice, and he immediately rolled up another one because it was original D&D, and he rolled up a magic user and had the best character voice acting for that magic user. I was rolling. I loved his magic user. Hey, there's Bo. I loved his magic user. Get the dungeon minister to play in your games, or if he'll hire out his services, ask him to voice prominent NPCs, because he had this nebbish little voice going on for his magic user, and it had me dying. I loved that guy. So yeah, OD&D was a lot of fun. And then Sunday mid-afternoon, Doomsword, myself, and Damien 247 played Hero Quest, the best game in the whole world. We played the first level of Hero Quest. Now, I don't know if we did it 100% right, and I didn't stream it or show it to you guys, so, you know, if you weren't there, you'd only know. I'm not sure if we did movement right. Not movement in the sense of your character moves. I mean, you know, we rolled to move. The best thing about Hero Quest is rolling to move. Will you leap heroically into battle or trip on a flagstone? And yeah, Mobius saw. He was just like in the room while the game was being played. So I'm not quite sure what order actions are taken in as far as attack. If a character can move 7 and they move exactly 7 to stand next to a monster, do they still get to attack in that turn or round or whatever? So that was a little wonky, but in the overall it went real well. And what was pretty nice was Doomsword and Damien both found like the spell cards and the character cards and a dice roller and something else, I think. But they found those resources online. So it was less of an effort to me to have to stop and read every bit of card information. And yes, they did have to make a tactical withdrawal. 2 Dread Warriors met them when they came around a corner and entered the Dread Warrior room, and the Dread Warriors proceeded to pound on them. But that Phase Door spell, or Ghost Walk, or whatever it was, that let you guys get the Barbarian in the room behind one of them. And then that sleep spell. That sleep spell is why any of them were able to withdraw. As it says, I take it those ideas didn't include any role-play games. I'm not sure I follow. Stonewalk. Thank you, Damien. But it was basically D&D's phase door or pass wall. But yeah, so the 3 games of mine that went really well, and every game that I saw being played had good groups in them. Call of Cthulhu, 2 Mort board games that were apparently going like gangbusters. There was a BX game that went. Now, something else. The reason it worked for so many people, one of the reasons it worked well for so many people, yeah, Damien, your body count was way up there, was because of the tireless efforts of Bo Gonora. He posts in the stream as Imperial Ramblings. Bo stepped up early and got that band thing going. And I am forever grateful to him for that. You know, if this was a real convention, like I would like drag him up to like closing ceremony stage and say, hey, big round of applause for this guy. But a big round of virtual applause for Bo Gonora, because he made this work. He made the scheduling work. So Dungeon Minister had fantastic merch. Bo is the one why there was like a backbone to connect the rest of the skeleton of this thing to. You know, the old backbone, spinal column there is where all your parts sit on or hang off of. And well, in this case, Bo created that. He is seriously unbreaded. No bread. None whatsoever. It's all protein. So, honestly, Bo did such a great job. Now, I want to talk about. I want to talk about the lowlights just for a second, and this. If any of you guys had any problems with it, like if anybody out there, if you had a bad time, if you were like, you know, this person was kind of shit, this person was disruptive, you know, I wanted to play, but all the user interfaces were beyond my means and nobody was willing to help me. Any of that, I want to hear that feedback, like right now. You can say it in the chat. You can post it on the show Discord, because I'm basically shelving. I'm not going to look at the convention Discord for a while. So, you know, you can say it in the show Discord, or you can reach out to me, bsylvia@gmail.com. If you have any complaints or concerns, you can just hit me up. If you had a negative experience, I have some negative things to say about the show, but they're all reflective of myself. And I'm not fishing for compliments, and I'm not looking for ass pats. This isn't like there, you know, you're a nice guy too, Bill, or anything like that. That's not where I'm going at with this. Okay. But I'm telling you guys, so you guys can understand, this is kind of some inside baseball. I probably would have, I can't do anything about in-laws, Vincent, I'm sorry. I probably would have put the con in mid-June instead of late May. I didn't want to delay it because we crossed the threshold on March 25th for 1,000 viewers. But I was like, well, you know, all of April, all of May into June, in retrospect, it would have been a better experience if I had, possibly. I don't think I prepared it nearly well enough for everyone. I know I didn't do a good job myself. I had problems coming to grips with however the calendar thing. Bo tried to explain it to me. I thought my games went up on the grid. And I dragged my feet on getting them all up there anyway. So I basically just said, yeah, just tell me that you want to play in my games, and then you can play. And enough people wanted to play Dungeon, and enough people wanted to play Hero Quest, and enough people wanted to play AD&D that you guys pinged me, and I was able to get that going. But AD&D and Tales from the Loop were a bust. I don't know if it was a lack of desire to play, or if it was because I screwed up my calendar. I think it's probably because I screwed up the calendar, and I assumed that folks that wanted to play would just come. But I think it just, people couldn't find it because I didn't do the friggin' calendar properly. So if you were looking forward to playing Lost Crypt or any kind of AD&D or Tales from the Loop, which is a really good game that you should play, and you didn't get the chance because I didn't do the calendar right, that's on me. So that's one low light. Oh, and if I could jump back over to the highlights set for a second, I did hear from several people, from several around here as a matter of scale, right? You know, I mean, if I say nearly everybody in town in reference to Orlando, it means something completely different to everybody in town in reference to Miami or the little town I live in of Longwood. Okay. But I did hear several people say that they enjoyed their games so much that they will now be playing campaigns. Imperial Ramblings is $15. Was that an attempt to super chat, IR? But the point is, there's a lot of people who found regular games because of the con, which is how it should be. That's how it should be. You should go to a con and bond with people over games at a con. And that people did that lets me know that my con did what it should. So to go back over to personal negatives. So I had a couple of games that fell apart because I didn't do them right. Like, I didn't do the scheduling right. But in the overall, that's just something I'm going to have to work on. I'm going to have to change that. So let's see. Okay, let's talk about a big negative that pertains back to people helping. After I sent out an all hands saying, hey, thanks for a great online convention last night, I added everybody. I got a private message from a buddy of mine who is a stellar human being. I say a buddy of mine. He's a friend, a capital F friend, who has always done right by me. We have been in the trenches together, in the metaphorical sense. He stood the watch. I never have, but we have broken bread together. I consider him to be really a great all-around human being. And when I told him that I crossed the 1,000 sub threshold and was going to do the con. He said, awesome, I can provide merch, I can help you with infrastructure, yada yada. He gave me a laundry list of things he can help me with, and I said, that's cool, I'm going to need those things. And let me tell you guys, some of you may have caught this before in watching my live streams when I've repeated myself, or I've just like gone blank and be like, because I can't think of what I was just talking about. I occasionally have memory problems. I hope that's not pointing to a larger thing. I hope that's just me being absent-minded and ADHD. So I sent out the all hands, and then this friend of mine, he messaged me and said, I didn't even realize this was happening. I offered to help. And let me be very clear. Let me qualify everything I'm saying to you guys. This is not criticism of him. This is criticism of me. And he was not angry. He was not accusatory. He was a little nonplussed, as anybody would have been. And I said to him at the time, yeah, I will really want your help. And then I forgot about the conversation altogether. And I went and I did the con. He had offered merch. He had offered all this assistance. And I left it on the table. You know, you ever do that? You ever cook something, a real nice like pot of spaghetti for yourself or something like that, and you get distracted and you just leave it on the table and you come back like the next morning or whatever, and you know, it's been sitting there. Now it's like spoiled. You lost your chance. Well, that was kind of where I was. And he and I had a heart-to-heart. He was not upset with me. He wasn't upset when he sent the message. He wasn't upset when he got the message. He was just like, odd. So the assistance will come from them. And this is, we're getting back to the positive. Those are the negatives. Those are the lowlights. We're coming back to positive stuff. The assistance will come from him for the Great Underground Online Gaming Convention 2023, GUOGC 2. That's right. That's right. You're hearing it here first, officially, not maybe, not it could be, not possibly. We will have at least one more Great Underground Online Gaming Convention. At least one more. GUOGC Redux. I like that. Leftover guac. More guac. Another batch of fresh guac. So in the spring or early summer of 2023, the next con, the next virtual con will happen. It's not second edition Guac Doom Sword, I promise. Guac 2 Electric Boogaloo, I like that. So here are some ideas. Well, actually, let me pump the brakes a little bit, because there is another positive thing that I forgot to mention. We had live from the Superdome. That would be a neat trick. I don't think, didn't they like tear the Superdome down and build a new one? I could be wrong. No, I'm thinking of the Astrodome. Yeah, the Astrodome is gone. Anyway, Friday night, if you missed it, you can go watch it on YouTube. But Friday night, we opened up Artist Alley. Tracy Lesh, is a good buddy of mine. Tracy came in and played well, he didn't really play host, played guest. And we talked about everything. We just kind of rambled, and he showed off a crap ton of his art. Now, if you watch that video, there are several pieces he showed. His Ranger, the cover of Boot Hill, I believe Cain the Thief. I know that these are, he sells autographed prints of those. If you would like autographed prints of Tracy Lesh art, let me know. I will put you in touch with him. I will do that. So Tracy had lots of fun stories about TSR. I didn't know. Tracy was a TV personality in Chicago. And I'm thinking on it, this goes back to my bad memory, because it's like, you never told me this. I think he actually did mention it to me once, right when I first met him, but I forgot it. Ours says the Superdome is still there. It still smells like stale beer, piss, and feet because NOLA. So Tracy Lesh was at the Artist Alley live stream. I'd like to have more artists. If you do old school fantasy art of any kind and you want to talk about it on the Artist Alley stream at the next GUOC, contact me, reach out to me. We'll put you in Artist Alley and you can sell prints and everything else. So that was very cool. Now let's go back to GUOC 2023. So it is going to happen. We'll have to see what I'm doing as far as a web interface. For right now, we're going to assume banned. But I'm gonna look around. Everything is fluid right now. Everything is up in the air. So that's going to happen. That's right, Paul. Tracy ran head-to-head against Sven Gulli. He was, he told me, do I have... Oh, I closed... let me check history here. Let me see if I can... I'm scrolling down through all these questions about why my TV is broken. My family TV has a green pixel line down one side. I've been trying to figure out how to fix that. Here we go. Dr. Cadaverino. Dr. Cadaverino. He was on the Dr. Cadaverino show. But if you knew Dr. Cadaverino back in the 70s, up there in Chicagoland, that Tracy was on that show. So moving onward. So it was a joy to have Tracy on. Now, next year, let me tell you what is coming next year. An official GUOC module. That's right. I'm going to write an AD&D module that only participants at GUOC can get in PDF. If you want print, you'll have to pay for it. There will be, courtesy of the person I was talking about earlier, there will be modules, print modules for sale of the Temple of the Sun only available at the con. If you want a print copy of Temple of the Sun, you will be able to buy one at the con, only at the con. What else? I made a decision, and this will happen before the con, but I made a decision to offer a con exclusive miniature. That's right. And I will have the design finalized, and orders will be complete like the month of the con, and I will send them out. But there will be a convention exclusive miniature. I will print it myself. I may have to ask someone to make the miniature, like 3D sculpt them. Well, someone will have to. I'm not just going to go grab something off Thingiverse or somebody's for sale miniature. Most of those say you can't sell these for profit anyway. But there will be a GUOGCon exclusive miniature. So there will be a lot of fun stuff next year. Now, will I figure out how to not fuck up the game grid? I hope. I mean, ideally, what I'd like to have, and Bo, you and I can talk about this later, but what I would just like it so if there's a feature in Band where you just go and there's just not that Facebook-like interface part of Band, but you just go like something like Warhorn or something like what GaryCon uses, where you just select the date and there's just a drop down of all the games, and you select the one you want and you click sign up, and you're signed up for it. And I, as a game master, have a blank entry form. I populate all this stuff and I click submit, and it goes into that list. If there's some way to do that, then I want to do that. And if not, we might go to something else. I don't know yet. This is 10 months away, because obviously we'll turn things on a few months before the con. I'm not a big con. I'm not even a small con. I'm a microscopic con. So, starting enrollment like next month for one of my cons would be a bit silly. That's kind of an interesting aspect there, Dungeon Minister, but I would be maybe for a future one. I already know in my head the mini that I want for GUOC 2023, and it's something that you can use on the tabletop. It's not going to be, like ridiculous, like, oh, it's a little 3D printed mini guacamole bowl. First of all, 3D printed resin is not food safe. It's barely safe to handle. And like filament, there are wars. There are like long protracted battles on the 3D printing Facebook groups for filament about, is TPU safe? Is FDM safe? Is PLA safe? Is this safe? Is that safe? Is any of it safe? Is none of it safe? Is it safe if you do this? Is it safe if you do that? So trust me, I'm not going to 3D print a cup or a mug or something like that. Moby says start 3D printing now. Well, I gotta ask some folks. So yeah, the next GUOC, there will be like physical merch you can hold in your hands. And I promise you, There won't be any screw ups on that. There won't be any, oh, well, you know, I know it's December, guys, and the con was back in June. I promise I'm trying to get this stuff out to you. That's not going to happen. Okay. And when I say limited, I don't mean like limited days. I mean, I may say, look, there's 30 miniatures for sale. There's, you know, 10 modules for sale. And so I'm not trying to do the FOMO thing, but you know, every con does their own limited run of stuff, or many cons do their own limited run of stuff. I should say every con, but many cons, t-shirts, modules. I've got my someplace on a shelf over there. I've got my 2018 Gary Con plastic drink cup. That's something I can't do, is give you guys like happy hour where we can all just sit around and get like free beer or cheap beer or whatever. Okay, Dungeon Minister, we'll see him. But at the same time, there's definitely stuff I can bring you guys. And so I fully intend to do that in 2023. I think my impression is that enough people had a good time that at the very least, I will have the same number of attendees at this con coming up as I did at the con that just finished. And the number of people I had at this one, which, I mean, it's a little hard to tell because I feel like a lot of people came to the Discord, and there were lots of people who just said, I can't play, but I want to sit in here and listen. You know, can I just watch? And some people would ask me, hey, do you think so-and-so will mind? And I'm like, as long as you're quiet, you know, I mean, if you go to a con and there's a table that's full and you're sitting off to the side, just watching them game, I don't think any DM minds that. Now, if you were DMing a game and I told someone that, and then they sat down at your game and you're like, is this person in the Discord if they're not playing? If you have a problem with that, well, tell me. If they were causing a problem, let me know. But generally, them just being in the Discord watching you, it shouldn't be a problem. Hail Michael Connor, unbreaded one. So that's where we're at. GUOC was a success. It was enough of a success that I'll do it again. And I mean, it cost me this much money. I wish I could pay Dungeon Minister for his efforts. I wish I could pay Bo for his efforts. But maybe someday it'll get to that point. One thing I can tell you is, what are you apologizing for, Mobius? You're saying I'm sorry. What are you apologizing for? Anyway, one thing I can tell you is the basic con experience will always be free. The basic online virtual con experience will always be free. If you want some of the tchotchkes that I get together, that's absolutely a-okay. You know, if you want some of the stuff that I put together and you know, you want to buy it, that's a-okay too. But coming and sitting and gaming on Discord and sticking your name in the you know, in the calendar to run a game, Yeah, I'm not going to charge you for that. If I did an in-person convention, yeah, of course I would charge. Of course I would. At the very least, I have to break even. I'll tell you what, buddy of mine, he's been on the show before, Volcano God. Oh, Mobius was talking about I was quiet. I said no promises in chat. Don't even worry about it, bro. Volcano God, there was a gaming group, a gaming federation or something here in the Central Florida area that flourished for a while, and he was part of it. And they had a games day. They bought a cheap grill and set it up in the parking lot and got like boxes of frozen burger patties and packages of hot dogs and like 2 cases of Cokes, and charged like $3 for a burger, $2 for a hot dog, and $1 for a Coke. And it was just gangbusters money that they made. People would just like lined up outside to get a little bit of cookout food, right? So coming online and playing the games, always free. If I charge you for anything, it'll be, like I said, it will be the miniature. It will be the module. If we end up with a couple of vendors at the con who are offering a convention deal and you want to check them out, they'll charge you what they'll charge you. So there we are, guys. There we are. That is GUOC 2022 in a nutshell. I had a lot of fun. I wish I had been more on the ball with scheduling. I would have liked to. I mean, if you could say, okay, one of your 2 games is going to bomb and you're not going to have attendance for it, Bill, which would you prefer? Tales from the Loop or AD&D? I gotta say, as strange as this may sound, I gotta say I would prefer to run Tales from the Loop. I'm not a fan of Free League overall as a company. I think they did a shite job on Twilight 2000 just because of how they screwed up the timeline yet again. I tell you what, Twilight 2000 has taken more of a beating than the Marvel timeline has since 1990. Because Twilight 2000 started off with a Cold War gone hot in the mid-1990s because the Soviet Union didn't fall, because in 1983, when they started writing the game, they couldn't predict. Well, I mean, I can, we can arrange something for a Tales from the Loop. Bo, don't even worry about that. But the game world just kind of continued on, and then the Soviet Union fell apart and the Warsaw Pact fell apart, and instead of the authors saying it's now officially alt history, they restarted it again and they based it on our own real world events, I guess, to try and keep it current. And then it continued on with Twilight 2000 2.0 and 2.2, which was a rules tweak, not a lore tweak, through the 1990s and into the early 2000s. And then some company literally licensed the rough premise and came up with this absolutely ridiculous Twilight 2013, where it literally, like, the good luck you're on your own order comes from the White House, not from your field commanders, and your troops are in the Middle East, not in Europe. Well, Free League was like, no, we're taking it back to Europe. It's Cold War gone hot and that sort of thing. And they just started putting the most idiotic politics into it. So I'm not a fan of Free League in the overall, but Tales from the Loop is a spectacular game. 99% of the die rolling, even possibly 100%, is done by players. I literally, it's not a story game, but I literally just story tell. I can make anything happen in the game I want, and you guys just roll dice to react to it. I don't have to counter roll. Your successes or failures are what make the game run along mechanically. And it is very lightweight and it is very slick. So, yeah, Tales from the Loop is definitely the game of the two that I wish I could have run. You guys see me run AD&D every week at this table on that camera. You watch me play AD&D, and some of you participate in it, which is very cool, very awesome. But in the in the overall, you only ever get to hear me talk a little bit about Tales from the Loop. So I kind of wish I could have run that. There were a couple of people on Facebook who said, I didn't know about this. I didn't know you were running Tales from the Loop. See? I fell down. I screwed up. Star Frontiers game next year is filling up fast. Really? Well, that's cool. Yeah, there was some. I forgot there was some Star Frontiers. I mean, a couple of Call of Cthulhu games, or was it just one Call of Cthulhu game? I apologize. I'm a little frazzled still. As far as I know, there were no technical hiccups. Although I will say that literally just before I was going to start OD&D on Saturday, lost my internet connection. It was only like 5 minutes, but I was just like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Are you heckin' kidding me? Michael asks, did Tales from the Loop have a TV show? It did. Now, so here's a little bit of the premise from Tales from the Loop. That's right. There's a Gamma World game there too. Player-facing mechanics, D&D can be modified. Okay. Anyway, player-facing mechanics, D&D can be easily modified. Tales from the Loop. Michael Connor asking about Tales from the Loop. Okay, so the premise of Tales from the Loop is that scientists tap into kind of a vaguely described global energy matrix that is able to enable things like anti-gravity, cold fusion, things like that. But in doing so, it can also produce Fortean events. Like your friend is just walking down the street and suddenly there's an adult who looks like what your friend would look like as an adult walking next to you for 5 paces, and then they're your normal childhood friend again. Little mysterious stuff like that can happen. I think, and it's based largely on the artwork of Simon Stalenhag, who came up with, these sort of very 1980s Northern European design aesthetics. Like if you think of what Volvos and BMWs and Saabs and stuff like that, mid 1980s level technology, but a lot more ubiquitous with AI and robots and anti-gravity thrown in. And the Tales from the Loop guys kind of roughly scraped that together and started forming this cohesive idea that the world as you know it, because of loop technology, can be a very strange, mysterious, and often dangerous place, more so than ours is now. And so they did a they did a TV show. It does have a very Norwegian feel. That's a good point, IR. The problem with the TV show is that the TV show comes on the heels of Stranger Things. Tales from the Loop very, very clearly, even if it was in design before. See, I've seen this kind of thing happen before, and I will touch on that in a second. But Tales from the Loop, when I have played Tales from the Loop before, and I've done like an introduction telling people about it, I've had the main theme and incidental music from Stranger Things playing. The events in Stranger Things would fit perfectly into the world of Tales from the Loop, except stuff like that would happen a lot more frequently. So Tales from the Loop came after Stranger Things, and I think a lot of people, myself included, looked at the show through that lens and said, it's not as good as Stranger Things. And it's not supposed to be. It's an anthology show about these Fortean mysterious events that happen in the world where loop technology may be slipping out of people's control. Consider this a couple months ago. I would lurk here and there'd be 8 or 9 people watching. It was 21 a few minutes. Well, that's awesome. Hello. If you're new to the show, thank you for watching. I know we picked up a few subs with the con. We're up over 1,080 something now. So thank you very much. Thank you very much if you're subscribed. Normally, I don't just kind of sit here and blather about the con that's over. I talk about meteor stuff, not meteor like rock, but meteor as in beefier. Luther wants to do some deep dives. Lost City, Hidden Shrine, as you've already begged for. Expedition. Luther, your prayers are answered, my friend. We are going to do deep dives, just as we did the deep dive on the G modules, the D modules, and Q1. We are going to deep dive. See, I talked about them at the beginning of the show, like at the beginning of this show's run. If you consider a season a year, the first season, we did D&D Antiques Roadshow, and I talked about them from a rarity standpoint, and I've kind of talked about them a little bit now and again. But hopefully to Luther's joy, we are going to look at those classic D&D modules. And really, if you've not played some of the classics that he's talking about, Lost City, Hidden Shrine of Tamacon, Ghost Tower of Inverness, White Plume Mountain, Lost Caverns of Sojkonth, Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, Tomb of Horrors, Slave Pits of the Undercity, Secret of the Slaver Stockade, In the Area of the Slave Lords, or Assault on the Area of the Slave Lords, and In the Dungeons of the Slave Lords. No, I'm not going to cover the something at Dark Shelf Quarry A0 module. 1, I don't have it. 2, it's not written by one of those original authors. And 3, what little I saw of it, it didn't fit tonally any of those modules, any of the ARI modules. Now, hats off to a person for coming up with an AD&D module in this date and time, but it doesn't fit. We're going to cover Len Lakofka's modules, the L series, L1, L2, and yes, L3 and L4 and L5, because he did get those published. and some basic modules too. So all of that, I hope Luther and anyone else watching who is champing at the bit for some classic D&D material, I hope you will be happy to know that it is coming. Now, I want to address that. I want to talk about AD&D a little bit here. I'm a fan of a great many role-playing games. I'm the guy who said that I would play Tales from the Loop, which is, it's like 6 or 7 years old now, which really just kind of blows my, I still think it is a new game. Or, well, maybe it's not that new, but it's from 2017 PC, pre-COVID. And you felt like Moses with the tablets. Well, if you got a copy of the Tomb of Horrors and you're bringing it down from the mountain, just every commandment is thou shalt die. Well, no, I shouldn't say. Thou shalt not enter the green devil face. Thou shalt not cast a wish on the wish gem. Thou shalt not disturb the four-armed gargoyle statue, lest thee lose thy gem of true seeing. Thou shalt not put the crown on thy head and touch it with the scepter. Lots of commandments in that. But anyway, to go back to what I was talking about. But when I get right down to it, there are many, many channels on YouTube. There are many places on the internet. I am like a thin, yeah, thou shalt not touch anything. Like this thin slice of tabletop RPGs, probably thinner than that, out here on the web. Even amongst AD&D, I'm thin, right? But with a little bit of grip on those rocks out on the promontory and the waves of media crashing against me, I don't want to lose my purchase and get washed into the sea and completely mixed in with and forgotten about by becoming just another ecumenical hugfest. Never forget, the focus of what I do on this channel is talk about AD&D. And I don't talk about AD&D like once upon a time, back in olden times, people used to game like this. Wasn't that interesting? I'm not a tourist, okay? I don't get out cotton, sanded cotton gloves, sanded so there's no like burrs on them, and padded forceps to open modules. They're not museum pieces. They're the stuff I play with, and they're the adventures I play day in and day out. Sometimes you guys see it here on the show. Sometimes I talk about it on the show. Many times it's not on the show, but I'm playing it with my friends. So one thing I can tell you, you're never going to see at any con that I run anything that is called the GUOGC. From me, you're never going to see like, well, I have 12 DMs all running Lost Mines of Phandelver. I would rather have a smaller con with fewer participants and see people running classic RPGs than a huge con where classic RPGs are just lost, where it's just they're just blown away and completely lost. That's my focus. You know, to people that say I need to, you know, well, you can, you know, can't you talk about the 5e conversion of this? First of all, look, I don't hate on people for playing 5e. Okay, I don't. I dislike wizards in the extreme and their approach to Dungeons and Dragons. And one of my viewers say, "Hey, you draw more flies than you can with honey," is basically what he said. Don't hate on people who enjoy 5e. I may rib them lightly, but if anybody's out there insisting that I make room for Pathfinder, be it at the con or in my discussions here, or insisting that I have somebody on to talk about 5e or whatever, you guys, not you guys, those guys have 95% of the hobby, because Wizards of the Coast publishes it. It's the latest D&D, and it's what people want to play. Leave me with what I've got. Leave me with AD&D and OD&D. And my TSR copy of Dungeon. And my GDW copy of Twilight 2000. And my first edition copy of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Leave me those things. Because you guys have got the whole world. So, Vince says, trust me, Bill, most of the 5 community hates you and all other 1e players. Do they? Well, you know, the opposite of love isn't hate. The opposite of love is indifference. If you have an emotion about something, then it has your attention. And it's taking emotional capital from you. If you're giving it freely, like I put emotional capital into the con, then that's good. But if I'm hating something, that thing is robbing me of emotional currency. But if I just shrug my shoulders and go, I don't care, or even if better still to say nothing, because even if you say I don't care, you acknowledge it to say I don't care. If you just say nothing and turn away, that's the opposite of loving something, is to be utterly indifferent. So utterly indifferent, you don't even acknowledge it enough to say that you don't care about it. I know they hate me over at EN World, Vince. I've known that for decades. I didn't know anyone at D&D Beyond knew me well enough to hate me, but I'll tell you this, I post up, I guess Warhammer fans would call them bat reps, post-game write-ups. I post them over on the AD&D subreddit, and they're almost exclusively positively voted into the 90s. I've never had one fall down into the 70s. Oh, 1E players in general. Oh, okay, I thought I thought you meant there was like some people out there like, screw Bill Sylvie and everything he does, which would just be funny because, again, I'm small potatoes. But yeah, no, I can believe it, Vince. I can absolutely believe it. But again, I'm just indifferent to it. I used to go to those websites in Edition more. Good Lord, why? Why would I? I wish I could take my time back. I wish I could take my emotional currency back. I can't. It's gone. It's over. It's done. Most people won't care how strongly I like AD&D. Nor you, nor anyone. But let's bring this back in, because I'm not edition warring much. Let's bring this back in. I prefer AD&D, original D&D, even the Holmes D&D beginner set, or Mulvey and Cook basic and expert. And that's really it. I guess what I'm saying is, if somebody came to me and said, I gotta watch that one day, that Witcher show. I watched like part of the very first episode, and something just like didn't hook me. So I'm gonna have to go back and check it out and see if I can get with it again. But yeah, no, if somebody came to me and said, yeah, I want to run a bunch of Pathfinder games at GUOGC 2023, I'd say, I'm not going to say no, but I can tell you exactly what my audience is. I can tell you who my clientele is, and I'm certainly not going to, not going to say you're going to have a bunch of signups. Because that's just not who I am. All right. I mean, I know 2E and 3rd edition and 3.5 and Pathfinder, the 1st edition of Pathfinder. There's a Pathfinder 2E now. And even 4th edition. I know technically those are out of print games from the past. I mean, I think 4th edition rolled out in when? Like 2007, 2008? That's 14 years ago. That's your granddaddy's D&D. Well, no, not really. But you've got plenty of other places where you can play those games. So try classic D&D. Come to a virtual con where classic D&D is being played. I mean, Dungeon Minister and Boganora, and I'm sorry, Dungeon Minister and Doomsword. Sorry, I went completely blank. Dungeon Minister and Doomsword and I played OD&D, and we had a final time. Doomsword opened a room that had 6 dryads in it, and his charisma was high enough that when the adventure was over, he went running back into the dungeon and spent the rest of his days in that room with the dryads. Vince says, I will run a 5e game where we spend 4 hours going over backstories. Okay, and so that explains the last play card. Well, guys, it's 8 in the evening. I hope you had a lot of fun with character generation. Bye. That's right. He is still there now. They lucked out of getting our Talsorian to write that game. Shame they couldn't reciprocate by maybe making Cyberpunk 2077 a decent video game. Yeah, I mean, as far as I can tell, Cyberpunk 2077 is Grand Theft Auto by way of William Gibson. So I will pick it up. I will pick it up in like 2 or 3 more years when they've done a couple more rounds of optimization patches, and it'll run reasonably well on either what I have or the 7th gen that I'm planning to build. And my 1650 Super. If I can run it at 1080p with moderate high-ish settings on such a rig, and it only costs like $10, I'll pick it up. I remember the first Far Cry game I got, Far Cry 3, I got like it and all of its DLC. There was this insane flash sale on top of the Steam winter sale. And it was like, okay, from, like 4 a.m. till 4 p.m. They were like basing it on European time or something, but it was like 4 a.m. till 4 p.m. It was like 98% off. So I got like the entirety of the Far Cry, just all of the Far Cry 3 stuff, like $1.75. And I kind of lucked out a little bit with Far Cry 4. I picked up Far Cry 4 for like $11.99, but none of the DLC. So I may go back and buy the DLC someday. I'm sorry you didn't get to play AD&D, Vincent. But I will do that with Cyberpunk 2077, when I can catch it on a flash sale for like a couple of bucks. And I've said before, I'll buy 2077, when it's on sale. It's on sale now. Run over to the store. Oh, it's $59.99 instead of $79.99. Okay. Yeah, Blood Dragon was probably the best Far Cry game that they've made. And honestly, they owe us multiple. We need like Blood Dragon 2, 3, and 4, like an urban Blood Dragon game. That we need a lot of Blood Dragon. I think it is a horrible tease that one of the unlockables in Far Cry New Dawn is actually a really good post-apocalypse game. It's not Fallout 4 levels of settlement management, but it ain't half bad. I just wish the world was a lot bigger, and it could have been so much more. Fallout or Far Cry New Dawn could have been a lot more. But the the one of the unlockables in the game, like if you grind enough, and yes, you can buy it, you can pay to get it, but if you grind enough mini missions, you can unlock the outfit that your character has in Blood Dragon, including the cybernetic hand and the kill star, but it doesn't work. Like, why would you give us that? Why would you give us that, Ubisoft? Why would you give me the chrome cybernetic hand and the kill star disc on top of it, and not give me the ability to just erase people by pointing at them? Why would you do that? What kind of monsters are you people? You get Cyberpunk Red and play tabletop. I can't trust. I can't. I'm sorry. Not after Fusion. Not after the Cyberpunk, whose artwork was literally photographs of G.I. Joe figures and no updates to Castle Falkenstein. You've hurt me, Mike. You've hurt me. Can I trust you ever again? I don't know. There's a bard in The Witcher. Very cool. Vincent says, I'm planning on jumping in during GUOGC 2. Excellent. Well, guys, I'm really glad this thing has got some traction. I'm glad you're not just like, oh, okay, well, I guess if you do another one, you know. No, people seem to be pretty enthusiastic about it, and that makes me happy. And I'm gonna, yeah, I'm gonna bring it back more. You want more? Limited run minis printed by yours truly. It's a homespun limited run. Limited edition con only module. Yes, that's right. And I don't mean like I'll take some of my stuff that you guys might already know and sell it at the con. I mean, I will create an adventure just for the con. And I will do it old school. It will look like an AD&D module. And as far as I'm concerned, I am too small to be noticed by Wizards of the Coast. I will make that sucker look like it came right out of TSR's printing department, circa 1980. I have no fear. And if they say stop, I'll say, hey, sold all 10 copies. It won't happen again until it does. So lots of cool stuff is going to happen. And I'm very hyped about it. You know what else I'm hyped about, guys? I'm hyped about these channel supporters who help things, all kinds of things around here, not just the GUOC, happen. And those guys are Joshua Garlock, Lord Corion, Ricky Maru, Mobius, Kevin Reynolds, Doomsword Deathmaster, Mark Simpson, Damien, James F. Keck, William Smith, The Dungeon Minister, Manny Wall, Mark Corey, Kevin Wood, Todd Sharp, Carnivore Farmer, Rob, I can't say that, Euless, Jeremy Rule, Bo Ganora, Mikey Mank, and Sky Hernstrom, who I really need to reach out to. So I thank those guys very much for being patrons. And you can support the show too, primarily by clicking subscribe and clicking that bell icon for notification and leaving comments. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you don't, give it a thumbs down. If you're like, this bored me to tears, 1 out of 10 stars, give it a thumbs down. I get it. I understand. My videos aren't perfect. I'm not perfect. But if you do like and you do subscribe, or if you do subscribe and you do like the video, give it a thumbs up. Click the bell icon for notifications. If you want to support us, we're on both Patreon and Subscribestar. Right there are the addresses. You can check us out. So, let me just say, let me just wrap up in closing. If I was going to give the con, now you may feel differently about this. You may be like, this was a whirlwind of fun, and I wish it hadn't have ended. I want to go back, open up the Discord again, Bill, so we can just be in the con all the time forever. That's fine. But me, Bill Sully, I would give the con in the overall a solid B. Not a B plus, but not a B minus. A solid B for my own efforts and my own experiences at the con. A solid B. If you rate it an A, that's problem. That's no problem. If you rate it an F, well, that's how you felt about it. Am I an imperfect victim? Probably. I don't even know what that means, but I probably am. So tomorrow night, we're gonna pry open A1 Slate Pits of the Undercity and start looking at what it's all about. And just for the SEO, just for the algorithm, just for the sensors, the slavers in the A modules are all bad guys. It's not presented positively in the least. It is an awful thing you're there to destroy, wizards. we're going to pry into that. We're going to dig into it just a little bit, because you should understand, with every Slavers module, you get 2 modules, but you'll see what I mean when we get there tomorrow. Then we're going to live stream. If you're new to the channel and you don't know about this, this may come as a huge shock. We are going to live stream first edition AD&D right here on this table. That's right. We're going to be playing some first edition AD&D. Wednesday, Kyle will be here, and we'll be here to answer all your questions and tackle the tough topics about classic role-playing games. Kyle brings a really fresh sense of humor and an awesome point of view to classic gaming. And I know he and Luther, he likes to come in and box Luther's ears a little bit, so that should be fun. Thursday is all A1. We'll get more into A1, and you'll know that it is A1, Slave Pits of the Undercity, that encompasses your doom. And Friday, more A1, but then hopefully we'll have the crowd here for Gamma World. So, with all that said, let me thank everybody for stopping by this evening. I really, really do appreciate it. You guys are awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed the con. I really, just from the bottom of my heart, thank you everyone for being there. The best reward I can give to you is to bring you an even better con next year. So 2023, better look out, because we're going to roll in over the top of it in a virtual sense. Unless I somehow got 10,000 subs between now and next year, and then it would be a real con, but that's not going to happen. So, thank you, Doomsword, for being at the con. Thank you for being in a couple of my games. Thank you all for running games. Thank you all for being here. Guys, we had like 21 people watching at peak. Thank you. That's so nice. Slave Pits of the Undercity, bearded dwarven women up front and center. Absolutely. So thank you all again very much. And I will be back tomorrow round about this time, probably around 7:30. Want to give ourselves plenty of time to get into A1 before we get over into AD&D. So y'all take it easy, and I'll see you next time. Have a good evening. Peace.